The hour of 10 o'clock having arrived, I'd like to call the Tuesday, December 9th, 2014 County Board meeting to order. I'd like to ask the clerk to call the roll. Jack?
Allen. Auger.
Here.
Barrow.
Here.
Castro.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Ford.
Here.
Froz.
Here.
Young.
Here.
Damon.
Here.
Poshey.
Here.
Ishmael. And I got it right.
He just walked out a minute.
Okay.
Kenyon. Here. Kazari.
Here.
Leonard.
Here.
Lewis.
Here.
Martin. Here. Molina. Holly.
Here.
Sheffro. Silva.
It was here.
Silva.
Here.
Smith. Sterrett. Vasquez. Winicki.
Okay. So we have a quorum. I'd like to ask Miss Fran Caffey, a neighbor from Aurora, who's going to be recognized today for her good work in the community, to come to the microphone to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please remain standing?
I need my folder.
I'd like to ask Rudy Rodriguez to come to the microphone and lead us in prayer. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, okay, Rudy, good. Rudy is a Kane County business owner and resident. He is a 2004 East Aurora High School valedictorian and a 2008 graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. Later on, I think it was either in Pensacola or Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi.
Yeah.
Had the my son Ted had the pleasure of meeting Rudy, and if you ever want to know who the true Supermen, Batmen, Captain Americas are, it's these people who serve in our armed forces, and the pilot training is something that is incredible for hard men and women to go through, and Rudy is one who excelled in that. So thank you very much for coming to lead us in prayer.
Absolutely, thanks for having me. And I have a request. I would like to share a devotional, if that's okay with you. May take a minute here. I just thought it was pertinent to a meeting like this. It's from a book by My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers, if anyone has heard of Oswald Chambers. And today's devotional reads, "The natural life is not sinful. We must be apostolized from sin. Have nothing to do with sin in any shape or form. Sin belongs to hell and the devil. I, as a child of God, belong to heaven and God. It is not a question of giving up sin, but of giving up my right to myself, my natural independence and self-assertiveness. And this is where the battle has to be fought. It is the things that are right and noble and good from the natural standpoint that keep us back from God's best. To discern the natural values or virtues antagonize surrender to God. It is being our soul into the center of its greatest battle. Very few of us debate with the sword and evil and wrong, but we do debate with the good. It is the good that hates the best, and the higher up you get in the scale of the natural virtues, the more intense is the opposition to Jesus Christ. They that are Christ have crucified the flesh. It is going to cost the natural in you everything, not something, Jesus said. If any man will be my disciple, let him deny himself, i.e. his right to himself, and a man has to realize what Jesus Christ is before he will do it. Beware of refusing to go to the funeral of your own independence. The natural life is not spiritual. It can only be made spiritual by sacrifice. If we do not resolutely sacrifice the natural, the supernatural can never become natural in us. There is no royal road there. Each of us has it entirely in his own hands. It is not a question of praying, but of performing. And with that, I just quick prayer. Lord Jesus, thank you for bringing us all together here, Lord, as a community for this meeting, Lord. And I just want to acknowledge you for your grace, Lord, in this room, the opportunity to open this meeting in prayer. And Lord, just want to acknowledge every member of this meeting, Lord, for their sacrifice, Lord, and for them willing to give up their own personal dependence, Lord, to act as a unit, Lord, and as a community, Lord, and to speak and think in the best interest of all. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rodriguez. If I'm not mistaken, you completed your assignment and your service in the Navy as a captain, ranked as a captain?
Yes, in 03, I was a lieutenant in the Navy, captain in the Marine Corps, so your son is a captain.
Yeah, that's right. That's how that ranked. Thank you very much for your service, and thank you for coming to be with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone, for having me. Appreciate being here.
Good. Okay, may I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the November 10th, 2014 meeting? So moved by Mr. Ford, second by Ms. Allen. Are there any thoughts, comments, or changes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion passes. Minutes are approved. Okay, under the presentations and discussions today, we have recognition of Fran Caffey, Sierra Club. It's going to be the William E. Colby Award winner, and Brian Pollock, a member of our board, is going to make the presentation. So I believe that, Brian, you're going to outline accomplishments and recognize Ms. Caffey. So Ms. Caffey, would you come forward, please?
Here? Yeah, all the way up here.
It's a sacred ground, you know.
I would like to say that the Pledge of Allegiance is one thing off my bucket list. I've never done that before. So.
Well done. Well, you did it well.
Okay,
Right here.
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay, this way, that way.
Whatever you want. Which one to rotate?
I'm a little curious.
Okay. I haven't been trained in the whereases, so this will be a little bit short. But about 2 weeks ago, Kane County resident Fran Caffey received the Sierra Club's William E. Colby Award at the annual Sierra Club event in San Francisco. This is one of the Sierra Club's highest awards and honors, and is for an individual, as they say, demonstrating outstanding leadership, dedication, and service to the Sierra Club. We're recognizing Fran today for a couple reasons. It's important that we recognize outstanding work that Kane County residents do. This wasn't just some little thing. This is seriously a national award. I know you're rolling your eyes, but really it is important, as you know. When the nation's largest environmental organizations, or any organization, says one of our local residents is one of the top volunteers, it's something that's important. And that's one of the reasons we're doing this today. More importantly, your efforts to improve the Fox River have been important to all of us. More than half of Kane County residents get their water from the Fox River. So what you do to improve the river affects all of us. About 25 years ago, just on the road from here, over at Mill Creek, Fran and some residents noticed there was some dead wildlife, there were white greasy blobs in the river, or in the creek actually, and she helped found the Valley of the Fox group. And they began monitoring the Fox River. This isn't the glamorous work. She and her volunteers go out every Saturday, and probably more often at certain times, to go out and check the river, sample it, see what it looks like. And for those of us that have been here our whole lives, we've seen how the river's changed in the last 25 years, thanks to some of the work you've done. It's not, let's avoid it, it's now we can actually go near the river and enjoy it and appreciate it. What's really cool about this is her group that she started became a national model. The Sierra Club's Water Sentinel program is really dedicated to the work that Fran did. Because of this, this national effort has more than 13,000 volunteers in 54 projects in 22 states, monitoring 48,000 square miles of watersheds, covering about half the country's population. So for those of us to think, this started because one woman wanted to make the Fox River clean. We're proud that Kane County is a wonderful place to live and work, and we are that because of the people who live and work here. So please join me in recognizing one of those individuals, Fran Caffey, and let her know that she's appreciated as much locally as she is nationally.
Okay, Ms. Caffey, if you'd like to
Of course.
comment.
This morning, I woke up thinking that usually when you speak before a public body, you're given 3 minutes. And so I thought, you know, I better get up, write it down, read it, so Brian doesn't get nervous thinking I don't have a turn-off button. Because sometimes it don't. It's one page, 400 words. I am both honored and humbled by the William Colby Award received from Sierra Club in San Francisco a few weeks ago, and by the recognition from you. Over the years, I have been involved in a number of environmental issues locally as well as bigger arenas. I have lobbied Chairman Lawson many years during his tenure as state senator. My passions continue to be clean water and getting people outside to explore, enjoy, and protect our great natural resources. In the early 90s, together with my dear friend, Dr. Eugene McArdle from St. Charles, the local Sierra Club Valley of the Fox started monitoring the Fox River and its tributaries. We used equipment inherited from the infamous Fox. We've always considered our work to be a complement to that done by the Illinois EPA. But our feet were on local ground and our boots in local water. Apparently, we were having so much fun that this idea spread like a bad case of measles across the country. So in 2001, Sierra Club gave us a name, Water Sentinels, a logo, which is a big block, H2O, and for a number of years, an anonymous donor. Well, we still have the name and the logo. However, we did lose the major donor in the economic crunch a few years ago. But because we share a passion for clean water, we still have, as Brian said, 13,000 volunteers, et cetera. And yes, we do have donors, usually regional, including the Grand Victoria in Elgin, which helps fund the Illinois Sierra Club Clean Water Advocate, Dr. Cindy Scrugru. And we have been able to turn this monitoring into action with legislation passed in Illinois and other states. I have become self-conscious of all the attention given because of this award until a friend reminded me that each time I speak, it's a reminder that the work is not done. If any of you watched 60 Minutes Sunday night on CBS, you would have seen the segment on coal ash ponds. As long as we continue to burn coal and dump ash into unlined, unprotected pits, we continue to pollute our water. As long as we have unregulated runoff from lawns and farm fields, we will pollute our water. And as long as we have dams on the Fox River, we continue to cause damage to our beloved fox. A river, like children, needs to run free. And yes, I could continue talking, but if anyone wants to talk water, you can reach me at fran.cathy@gmail.com. You may forget my name and everything I've said here today, but please never forget, clean water is a human right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Caffey, and thank you very much, Mr. Pollack. All well said. Okay, next is a presentation of probation services funds to local agencies, and I'd like to ask our Chief Judge, Judy Braca, to come forward and take over that portion of the program.
Good morning. The Illinois Uniform Code of Corrections permits a portion of fees that are paid by probationers to be used to provide services to assist crime victims and their families. This is collected annually in a victim services fund and is awarded once a year to different organizations that provide services in Kane County to residents who are victims. I am honored to be able to announce the recipients of the 2014 Victim Service Fund grants, and we have chosen for the third year in a row to make this presentation here at a board meeting because we in the Judiciary and Court Services consider the board to be our partners in this endeavor. Through the support by the county for funding for court services and the support for the judiciary, you have helped us to make this possible for crime victims and their families. And what better forum is there to make sure that you as our partners know who the recipients are and how we are spending this money in our community. There are 3 presentations that we are going to make to organizations this year. As you may recall, back in 2012, a presentation was made to the Salvation Army for services relating to victims of human trafficking and the sex trade, which people had imagined was in some other country, but as we found out at that time, really it goes on here in our own jurisdiction as well. Last year, we concentrated on the mentally ill homeless population, and there were a number of statistics and 3 recipients of grants locally: AID, Wren's Addiction Center, and Ecker Center. This year, I am pleased to announce that the funds of $5,000 each are going to 3 organizations here in Kane County: CASA Kane County, the Mental Health Juvenile Justice Program at Family Service Association of the Greater Elgin Area, and Youth Outlook. Because this is a joint endeavor between the judiciary and court services, I'm going to ask that we have some court services presentation in introducing some of our recipients. But I would like to introduce to you one of the presenters whom you already have met on various occasions, Deanna Cada. And it's with great sadness that I announce that Ms. Cada has submitted her resignation as the Deputy Director of Court Services to leave to become the Executive Director of the DeKalb Area Mental Health Board. So good for Ms. Cada, but bad for us. Ms. Cada personally has been responsible for securing over $500,000 and actually closer to the $1 million mark of grant money for us in the 3.5 years that she has been here. And in addition to actively securing grant monies and working within the office, she has been instrumental in helping us with training on sensitive issues, including awareness on LGBTQ issues. She assisted in union negotiations. She has helped us with standards for the provision of services to defendants, and we are very sad to see her go, but grateful that we have had her for the past 3.5 years. So, Ms. Cada, if you will please make the first presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Braca, for those kind words, and it has certainly been a wonderful honor to work and serve Kane County, and I'm going to miss the people and miss being here very much. And one of the great things that I get to do is be the community liaison with our community partners. And so that's one of the most rewarding pieces of what I get to do. So today, I'm going to introduce Nancy Mullen, the Executive Director of Youth Outlook, and our first recipient of our Victim Services Fund. In the last decade, we have experienced many changes around the issues of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered people, both locally and nationally. Don't ask, don't tell, employment non-discrimination bills, civil union legislation, and same-sex marriage. Youth Outlook is the only not-for-profit agency in the western suburbs organized to support LGBT youth and young adults. And they've been working with Kane County since 1998. And I would not be surprised if today is the first time you've probably heard of Youth Outlook, but they have been here working for us for a long time. This past summer, Youth Outlook assisted in developing training for the 16th Judicial Circuit. And that has opened a dialogue about how LGBT people are seen, how they are referred to, and how they are treated upon contact with the Kane County court system. And Nancy was instrumental in that training. This kind of professional development is only one of the several things that Youth Outlook provides our community. They offer drop-in center services to LGBT youth. They partner with one of the Aurora high schools to offer on-site programming for youth who are not able to attend the drop-in centers. They provide information to at-risk youth on issues such as HIV prevention and healthy relationships. And they work with those youth to develop leadership skills that they will take with them into college and then when they come back to our community for their careers. LGBT youth are at risk of victimization. They are more than twice at risk for mental health issues, chemical abuse issues, homelessness, and dropping out of school. And this is the one that scares me so. These youth are up to 8 times as likely to commit suicide as heterosexual youth. With one full-time person who organizes a team of highly motivated volunteers and part-time employees, Youth Outlook supports LGBT youth across 5 county areas, with Kane County being right in the middle of those 5 counties. Striving to decrease the sense of isolation and alienation that these youth face, keeping them sober, healthy, at home and in school, as well as working to support the professionals who work with these youth in other settings. It is my honor and privilege to award Youth Outlook a Victim Services Fund.
next presenter will be Lisa Aust, who is the Executive Director of Court Services.
Good morning. One of the agencies that we're recognizing today is Family Service Association of Greater Elgin Area. They do a program called the Mental Health Juvenile Justice Program, which works very actively with our juvenile drug court program and works very actively with our kids housed at juvenile detention. The goal of the mental health initiative that they do, the program, is to identify major mental illness in youth involved in the justice system that might otherwise have gone untreated. MHJJ strives to support identified youth and their families to help prevent their victimization. They work to prevent further involvement with the legal system, and they advocate for youth who remain in their communities when possible and absolutely when it's clinically indicated. The program works to strengthen families and youth and their relationships with the courts, probation, detention, schools, healthcare, mental health, and other community-based services. This is accomplished through case management, linkage to community agencies, court advocacy, and monitoring the progress with treatment. MHJJ can aid in consultation and coordination with schools, hospitals, court, detention, and probation personnel. The MHJJ liaison is able to connect families with financial resources also. The individual treatment plans are developed to address needs and build on their strengths. This is what a community-based service looks like. The Family Service Association of Greater Elgin is a private, non-for-profit agency. They offer services to children, adolescents, and adults of all ages. They were founded in 1931, and the organization has grown to be a multi-service agency, currently serving more than 3,000 clients in our area annually. The goal of Family Service Association is to strengthen individuals and their families so that they can remain together and that they can meet the challenges of modern life in positive and constructive ways. And at this time, I want to recognize Bernadette May, who is the clinical director or the director of clinical services.
As you can see, our theme for victims this presentation is children. I am very pleased to announce the last recipient, CASA Kane County. The mission of CASA Kane County is child-based and child-centric. They advocate for the best interests of abused and neglected children, birth through age 21, within the Kane County juvenile court system. CASA believes and works on the principle that every child has the right to a safe, nurturing, and permanent home, and deserves the support and involvement of the community to make this possible. It is not just up to the court, it is up to the community to make this work. For 26 years, CASA Kane County has been recruiting, training, and supervising community volunteers who are appointed by the court to be a child's court-appointed special advocate, or CASA, and the guardian ad litem in the courtroom. These volunteers collect information after spending time with the child and speaking to all the people involved in the child's life who can give relevant information, like family, teachers, therapists, medical professionals. The report is compiled for the court prior to every court hearing, and they appear. Professional staff on full-time basis then guide the CASA volunteers through the duration of their cases and assist them if needed in writing reports, attending the hearings, tracking case data and pertinent dates, and collaborating with the attorneys, the caseworkers, foster parents, and others to help ensure the permanency for each child. If not for this volunteer organization, by statute, each of these children would still have to have a guardian ad litem, except you'd be paying for that in a different way, through increased number of staff of attorneys instead of this volunteer organization. They do a fabulous job. They save countless dollars for the taxpayers. They save numerous lives for all of the community to celebrate. And it is with great pleasure that I ask Gloria Bunce, who is the Executive Director, Vicki Shaw, the Director of Advancement, and the Secretary of the CASA Board, who's actually also here, Carl Schiedel, to come forward for this presentation. Thank you very much. I regret that the chairman of the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee, Ms. Wanicki, is not here, but Chairman, if you could please indulge us on behalf of the Kane County Board, if you could step down, if we could get one photograph, and we'll try to also take it so that we can get as many members as we can in of the board for posterity. And if I could ask the recipients and presenters to come forward, please.
Thank you so much, Chief Judge. Next on the agenda, this is the Firing Up the Fox Best in Kane County Barbecue Award and check to Living Well Cancer Center. Mark Davist, I'd like to invite Mark to come forward and make the presentation. I understand that Julie and Justin Ferris from Pride of the Fox are here. And then Lori Hansen will accept the check on behalf of Living Well Cancer Center. Then Bob Lewin, the winner of the barbecue award, will also be in attendance with his wife, Amy. So, with that, turn it over to Mr. Davist.
Well, as the winter weather descends on us, I'm just going to ask you to think back a little bit and remember the joy of summertime weather, when in your infinite wisdom you declared that we could have a Best in Kane County champion. We have an organization that's recognized on a national level. And without stealing too much of Julie's thunder, we came up with a champion who is local. So I'm going to let Julie tell you more about this wonderful event that's family-oriented and is helping to support an organization that also is family-oriented in the Living Well Cancer Resource Center.
Thanks, Mark. And thank all of you for having us here today on behalf of Firing Up the Fox Barbecue Contest and Festival. Our contest was held this July in St. Charles at the location that is called the Old Mall property, owned by Shodine Group. This is our third year of having this competition, and it is a national sanctioned competition. And when I explain it, I like to tell people it's kind of like NASCAR. So we are just one stop in the points chase, and we are recognized with the state of Illinois and with the county of Kane as first, we're an official state competition, and now we have the great honor of being the best in Kane County for our barbecue competition. And today, we'd like to have your support with a couple of presentations. And every time we do presentations, we always bring goodies for the people that were taking your time up. So I'll end with some fun things for you also. When we started this venture, we decided that we were going to pick a not-for-profit to support. And there are so many wonderful not-for-profits in our community. And some of them are very well known, and we looked at those. And we found one actually in Geneva that we thought was a great resource for everyone in our county. Their resources are free to the community, and I think that every single person in our group has been touched by cancer. And so when we looked at these groups, we found one that we felt we were going to support. Each year, we've been able to make a financial donation. It's been small, but every year we've been able to increase the amount, and we are hoping in the next 2 years that the amount we give today will be able to be multiplied by hopefully 10 times. And so I hold you to having us here in a couple of years from now with a much larger check. But with your permission, I'd like to bring Lori Hansen from Living Well Cancer Resource Center up. And Mark, you can hold this big old check that we're going to give to Lori. Lori, on behalf of Firing Up the Fox and Pride of the Fox, our parent not-for-profit, we would like to give you this check for $1,000. And thank you and all of your team for supporting our event.
Thank you so much.
With your designation of the best barbecue festival in Kane County, we knew that was a big title to fill, and we decided for our competition we were going to have a category, and that category was Best Barbecuer in Kane County. When you do something like this and you have contestants from around the country competing and entering this category, you get a little nervous, because the worst thing in the world would be to give someone from another state our award. But we were very lucky that the best smoker barbecuer actually came from Kane County. And so we would like to bring up Ron Lewin from Batavia, who won the category Best Smoker in Kane County at Firing Up the Fox.
Wasn't able to arrange for samples, unfortunately.
And on behalf of Pride of the Fox, our parent not-for-profit, and Firing Up the Fox, we would like to thank you for believing in us and giving us the opportunity to be the best barbecue in Kane County. And so I brought each of you a couple of little goodies. There is an official Firing Up the Fox pin, a pen, and then from our other team, Riverfest, an official postcard. We also brought you and I'm going to let Mark hold this up, the official 2014 Wanted for Firing Up the Fox. I do have assorted sizes in the box for everyone. And then for Mark, for being just such a great representative of St. Charles and helping us to make this happen. And for Chris, for putting up with our meetings and listening to us explain it, and then coming out and supporting the event. I have something special for both of you. You both now have official Firing Up the Fox barbecue aprons. And these just aren't any kind of aprons. These have tools. These have your oven mitt, there's a towel, and then for your beverages, there is actually a beverage opener and a little pocket on this side. So wear them when you smoke and barbecue, and think of us, and I invite you all to join us next year for the 4th annual Firing Up the Fox barbecue. And again, thank you for your support. I'm going to leave all your goodies outside by Chris's office so you can get them afterwards. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Julie. Thank you, Julie. Thank you very much, Mark. And then with that, everybody's invited over for dinner tonight. Just kidding. So thank you very much. Now, if that weren't enough fun already, the next thing on the agenda is the presentation of the Regional Transportation Authority's 2015 budget. So I'm going to ask our RTA board member, former Mayor Don DeWitt, to come forward. And first of all, Don, I'd like to thank you very much for your very conscientious work on the RTA. And I know that you have Bea and Leanne with you today, and so you do the introductions, okay?
Thank you, Chairman. Members of the County Board, let me extend my welcome to all the new board members this year. It's our pleasure to be here again this year to talk a little bit about the RTA. We'll move through it briskly. With me this morning, Executive Director Leanne Redden and Chief Financial Officer Bea Reyna Hickey. You will hear from them shortly. It's hard to believe that it's been a year since I stood in front of you here talking about the RTA. I think about a year ago I was standing here wondering what I might have gotten myself into. But I think the tone of this year's presentation is what a difference a year makes. I think anybody who has followed the Regional Transportation Authority and the press lately realized there's been some significant changes in this organization, and they are all leading to better governance in serving mass transit customers, not only in Kane County, but throughout the metropolitan area. Some of you are aware that former Chairman John Gates chose not to run for re-election back in June. In August, Senator Kirk Dillard was unanimously elected as our chairman after being selected by the mayor of Chicago and the chairman of the Collier counties. He has hit the ground running. I think he was actually in Springfield before he officially took office. And I think Kirk's experience will be significant in moving the Regional Transportation Authority forward. Also, in October, Leanne Redden was appointed Executive Director. She had served in that role in an interim capacity for several months, prior to that leading the planning department for RTA. So she comes with a very strong background and, again, has hit the ground running and started instituting changes. There really is a new spirit of cooperation between the RTA and the service boards, PACE, METRA, and CTA that we oversee funding and planning processes for. And I know Bee's going to go into some of those details as part of her presentation. Finally today, I have distributed to everyone a 4-page list of Kane County projects that that encompasses a number of projects that RTA funding through the various service boards have contributed to Kane County. Most significantly, I would ask you to turn to the very back page under the paragraph of corridor planning. Many of you are aware that for some time there has been a study in process to study the extension of METRA service into Kendall County, eventually ending in Plano. That's the study scope. Almost since I got on the board, the RTA board a year ago, a number of county board representatives and the chairman has pressed for looking into the possibility of studying extended service to Sugar Grove. I'm very happy to announce that on Halloween of all days, as it is a relatively scary process, on Halloween, the Federal Transportation Agency did in fact sign off to include a feasibility study for METRA extension to Sugar Grove as part of the Kendall County METRA extension service study. I stress the word feasibility. This is extremely early in the process, and many of you know who may have been involved in the METRA service extension process out to LaFox and Elburn. It is a very long, drawn-out process. It is extremely expensive, and it really does require intergovernmental relations between all of the agencies involved, including the municipalities, the county, the state, and the federal government. So that is very exciting news, I believe, for Kane County, and we will be watching that process very closely. I also want to bring up Judge Manny Barbosa, Kane County's METRA rep, who was very helpful in that process, moving this through the approval process. So with that, I would like to turn the microphone over to the Executive Director for the RTA, Ms. Leanne Redden.
Morning. Thank you, Director DeWitt. And thank you, Chairman and board members, for giving us a few minutes to run through our annual budget presentation. It's not as exciting as barbecue, unfortunately. Maybe I'll bring free samples next time. I don't cook that well. But my name, as Director DeWitt said, is Leanne Redden. I am the recently appointed Executive Director at the RTA. And the RTA, as many of you probably know, is the regional entity that works with the 3 operators, PACE, METRA, and CTA. We, as an agency, though, are primarily the only agency that takes a regional focus and a regional outlook at the transit system. But we are responsible for planning, funding, and oversight. And most importantly, what we're talking about today here is the consolidated regional transit budget. We're responsible for reviewing and putting together those regional budgets on an annual basis that ensure sort of fiscal stability of our transit system. We're also responsible for putting together 2-year financial plans, a 10-year financial outlook, and the 5-year capital program. And B. Raina Hickey, who is our CFO, will quickly run through some of those numbers. But before I just step away from the mic, there's basically 3 takeaways from today's presentation. One is that it is a balanced budget with some modest growth. So that is a good thing for all of us. As the economy is turning around, things are looking up, and that's really helping us in our transit space. Secondly, I think it's important to highlight that METRA, for the first time ever, is receiving about $7 million in what we call, I know it's a little inside baseball, discretionary funds. But those funds were traditionally sort of the purview of the CTA, and I think this year through our budget process, we were able to collectively, not just at RTA, but all 3 service boards with us, come together and reach an agreement that was allowing us to sort of break some of that logjam and allow some of those discretionary dollars to start flowing to Metro. So sort of the underlying third point that I want to make is that this year's budget, and Director DeWitt alluded to this, really under the leadership of Chairman Dillard and great members like Don DeWitt, who've really helped us really form a collaborative leadership approach with us and our service board partners to balance the budgets. But it really has been a season of lack of arguments, lack of fights, no discord, and as a result, the media hasn't covered it. So if you hadn't heard, we have balanced the budgets, we have moved forward. I know you've heard individually from each of the service boards about their specific budgets, but what we're going to run over very briefly is that consolidated regional outlook for the next 12 months. And with that, I will turn it over to B. Raina Hickey. But one final thing, Chairman Dillard did send his regrets. He was planning to be here today, but he got called in to meet with Senator Kirk's office and leadership from the UP Railroads. They are talking about partnership on a collaborative freight plan similar to what they have done on the east side of our region, the CREATE program, and looking at what we're calling CREATE West. So they're sort of getting together and trying to brainstorm how we could make some advances in that space as well, and partnering up with us on the transit side. So he sends his regrets. Thank you.
Good morning again. My name is B. Raina Hickey, and I am the CFO. I've been with you before here a few times. So yes, they actually called it the Kumbaya vote, Mr. Chairman. It was unanimous. It was passed on the first time, so we are in a much better place than the last two times that I've been here. And thank you for sending us Director DeWitt. He's been a pleasure to work with, and certainly is always willing to work with both sides of our group. So I'm going to give you a little details about our budget. I'll try not to take up too much time, but the consolidated regional operating budget of $2.9 billion in expenses is balanced by revenues of $2.9 billion. Revenues consist of public funding, which is at $1.8 billion, and operating revenue of $1.1 billion. Regional funds from sales tax, state public transportation fund that we refer to as the PTF, and the real estate transfer tax, or the RET, R-E-T-T, collected only in the city of Chicago, are projected to total $1.76 billion for 2015. That's an increase of about 4.4% from the 2014 year-end estimate. Last year, RTA sales tax receipts from the six-county region totaled $1.07 billion. Kane County's receipts represented 3% of that, or about $31.6 million. Sales tax and fare revenues comprise about 80% of the region's operating budget combined, or about 40% each. So total annual expenditures are projected at $4.2 billion for 2015. This amount includes $2.9 billion in operating expenses and nearly $1.3 billion in capital investments. Operating revenue is projected to increase by 2.5%, related primarily to Metro's announced fare increase. Non-statutory funds for the first time will be divided among all of the service boards, as Leanne was indicating. In years past, Metro had not received funds from either of these sources. Metro is slated to receive $6.7 million in non-statutory funds in its transit operating budget in 2015 versus $2 million it received in the 2014 for capital. So one of the things to keep in mind is that it's not just an agreement for this year. We've actually laid the framework. Now, it could all fall apart, and I could be telling you a different story next year, but we did lay the framework for some agreements, points of agreements on how we're going to do the allocation of funds going forward. To help address the region's capital needs, the RTA Board of Directors approved preliminary funding estimates for not only the annual budget, but also the 2016-17 financial plan. One of the things that we are trying to do is issue bonds up to our full capacity to assist in the capital development programs. These are split 55 CTA, 45 Metro, and PACE receives 5%. Total proposed capital funding is expected to be $1.3 billion, which has been identified as the amount that's needed to at least keep the backlog in capital from growing. The overall proposed funding picture for 2015 is positive, but there have been no new state funds identified. So there continues to be an issue that we don't have a dedicated state capital funding source. Some examples of the Kane County projects, and you do have a full list before you, is that I'd like to highlight is the City of Geneva adopted a transit-oriented development plan, so a TOD, funded by the Community Planning Program for its Metro Station area in 2012, and immediately returned to the RTA for assistance in revising the zoning code for that area to support the transit-oriented development. The RTA is also working with the City of Elgin to prepare a transit-oriented development program for the approximate half-mile radius around the Chicago State Metro Station in the city. And although the RTA's Community Planning Development Program funds were provided for an assessment of the Rain and Kane County program last year, the Rain and Kane County program now is in its 6th year of operation. It coordinates paratransit services in Kane County into a centralized system that optimizes transportation resources for older adults, persons with disabilities, and low-income individuals. 19 private and nonprofit organizations and local unit of governments provide the local match to the federal operating funds. Approximately 130,000 rides or trips have been provided through this program in 2014. We also provided handouts of the RTA programs, the consolidated budget, and you already have the Kane County list of projects. All of the details are also available on our website, www.rtachicago.org, and on December 17th, we hope to pass our consolidated CTA, Metra, and PACE budgets, and hopefully all will go well. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much, B. Are there any questions? B? If not, thank you very much for your presentations today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate all your good work. You know, I'd also like to recognize 2 members of our board who make contributions, one with his entire career, Joe Heyman, with PACE, one of the service boards that we're talking about, and then a new member, Don Ishmael, who keeps the UP rail line safe for the rest of us to use. So Don and Joe, thank you very much for your work also. So thank you, Don. Okay, the next on the agenda, the Chairman's Short Program, I'm going to defer time to later on in the program where we have some other things to cover. Next on the agenda is speakers on agenda items. Would anyone like to speak on an agenda item? If not, okay, we'll go to the zoning petitions. We have one zoning petition on the agenda today, and I'd like to ask Development Committee Chairman Teresa Barrero to discuss and make a motion to approve the zoning petition. So, Chairman Barrero.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to make a motion to move this petition, but I would like to read it first. This petition is number 4328. It is in Hampshire Township. It is located at 46 West 421 Route 72 in Hampshire, Illinois. It is proposed rezoning from F to E1. It does fall into the resource management of the 2040 plan. There were no staff objections, and the staff approved it, zoning board approved it, and the development committee approved it. I do believe we do have the attorney for this property. The owner is Donald Benchley, but the attorney is here if you do have any questions. I'd like to make a motion to move that.
Okay, so moved by Ms. Barrero, second by Mr. Hoshite. Are there any questions? If not, I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Allen? Auger?
Yes.
Barr?
Yes.
Castro?
Yes.
Davos? Yes. Ford? Yes. Frost? Yes. Gillum?
Yes.
Heyman? Yes. Hosha?
Yes.
Ishmael? Yes. Kenyon? Yes. Kazaric?
Yes.
Leonard? Yes. Lewis? Yes. Martin?
Yes.
Molina? Yes. Pollock? Yes. Jeffro?
Yes.
Silva? Yes. Smith? Absent. Starrett? Absent. Vasquez? Absent. Winnicki? Absent.
Okay. Okay. This passes. Thank you very much, Ms. Barrero. Now, resolutions and ordinances. Would anyone like to remove an item from the consent agenda? If not, I'd like to ask for a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. A motion made by Mr. Ford, second by Mr. Heyman. Any discussion? Not?
This is history, sir.
Yes. That's good.
Real history.
It's wonderful.
Jinx it.
So with that, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll to record history.
Allen? Auger?
Yes.
Barrero? Yes. Castro?
Yes.
Davos?
Yes.
Ford? Yes. Frost?
Yes.
Frost? Yes. Excuse me, such a low voice. Gillum?
Yes.
Heyman? Yes. Bochet? Yes. Ishmael? Yes. Kenyon? Yes. Kazari? Yes. Leonard? Yes. Lewis?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Molina? Pollock? Sheffield? Yes. Silva?
Yes.
Smith? Sterrett? Vazquez? Montague? Absent? Unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It passes. Okay, now on the agenda we have appointments. First on the list is Kane County Emergency Telephone Systems Board. That's the Kane County ETSB. May I have a motion and a second to approve reappointments of Mike Fagel, Roger Feinstock, and Steve Olson to the ETSB? So moved by Mr. Kenyon, second by Mr. Heyman. Is there any discussion? Mr. Kenyon?
Great pleasure. We reappoint these fine people.
Very fortunate to have their good work, all highly competent, and actually with national recognition. So, any others? If not, I'd like to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Allen? Auger?
Yes.
Guerrero? Castro?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Ford? Yes. Fries? Yes. Gillum?
Yes.
Heyman?
Yes.
Bochet? Yes. Ishmael? Yes. Kenyon?
Yes.
Kazari? Yes. Leonard? Yes. Lewis?
Yes.
Martin? Yes. Molina? Pollock? Yes. Sheffield? Yes. Silva?
Yes.
Smith? Sterrett? Vazquez? Montague? Absent. Passes.
Okay, so the motion passes. Next on the agenda is Mill Creek Water Reclamation District appointment. May I have a motion, maybe by Mr. Fraz, and a second to approve the appointment of Mike Hammond to the Mill Creek Water Reclamation District? Motion is made by Mr. Fraz, second by Ms. Castro. Is there any discussion? Mr. Fraz?
Mr. D.J. Tegler is leaving the board. He was recently elected judge, so I'd like to congratulate him on that and thank him for his service. You know, that board sometimes has periods of not a whole lot of action, but it's been a lot of action the last few years and in the coming years. So he took it through some tough decisions. So I want to thank him for that. And then I did interview 2 candidates for this position. They were both excellent candidates. It was literally a coin toss, but I did recommend Mr. Hammond to the chairman. And I endorse him.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Fraz. Any other thoughts, comments? If not, I'd like to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Allen? Auger?
Yes.
Guerrero? Yes. Castro?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Ford? Yes. Fries?
Yes.
Gillum? Heyman?
Yes.
Bochet?
Yes.
Ishmael? Yes. Kenyon?
Yes.
Kazari? Yes. Leonard? Yes. Lewis?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Molina? Yes. Pollock? Yes. Sheffield? Yes. Silva? Yes.
Okay, the motion passes. Next, Public Building Commission, may I have a motion and a second to approve the appointments of Drew Fraz and Don Biggs to the King County Public Building Commission? So moved by Mr. Kazarek, second by Mr. Heyman. Is there any discussion? If not, I'd like to ask Clerk Cunningham to call the roll.
Allen? Auger?
Yes.
Guerrero? Yes. Castro?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Ford? Yes. Fries?
Abstain?
Probably a good idea.
Gillum? Yes. Heyman?
Yes.
Bochet? Yes. Ishmael? Yes. Kenyon? Yes. Kazari?
Yes.
Leonard? Yes. Lewis?
Yes.
Martin? Yes. Molina? Yes. Pollock? Yes. Sheffield? Yes. Silva? Yes. Smith? Sterrett? Vazquez? Montague? Absent.
Okay, motion passes. Now the 2015 Kane County Standing Committee assignments. I'd like to ask, let's see, Mitzi, if you'd put the chart up on the screen, and then also Ellen, if you would distribute the hard copies so that people have them for their records review. While those are being distributed, I'd like to first congratulate Mike Kenyon and Barb Wonicky and Phil Lewis for offering their services to the Forest Preserve. Thank you very much for what you've done and what you will do in the future. I'm very excited to enjoy the privilege of organizing our team of 24 board members for the next 2-year term. In Springfield and Washington, you know, everybody is expert. They're all nice folks. But you know, there's a lot these days that's not getting done to the approval of our mutual constituents. But here in local government, after we discuss issues, we actually have to get them done. Whether that's dispensing justice, providing public safety, building and maintaining roads, protecting public health, protecting environment and property rights, conducting free and fair elections, and delivering all the support services that buttress these functions, things can go wrong. Lots of things can go wrong. And so it's, I believe in local government, we approach what we're doing with an appropriate humility. It's in that spirit of humility that I present for your approval our committee assignments. I came across a quote the other day. Socrates said, "Employ your time in improving yourself by other men's and women's writing, so that you shall gain easily what others labored hard for. The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." So it's in that spirit that I understand that I've made these selections and assignments as well as possible. I know that it is an imperfect proposal. So now, because this is an imperfect proposal, I'd like to remind the board that the length of these assignments is 1 year, according to the county code, but by practice, it's typically extended. But all of my errors that I may have created in these can be corrected in 12 short months. It was Rick Nagel the other day, I think in an executive committee meeting, executive committee meeting, shared with us a quote from Stephen Covey. And actually, I think it's of profound importance, especially as we organize our work for the next year. That we start as independent representatives of 25,000 people. We all represent the folks in our neighborhood. The second level of a growth is the interdependence that we all share. The older I get, the more I understand all of our vulnerabilities, but finally, the level that transcends both the independence and interdependence is synergy, where the whole becomes greater than the sum of the parts. So I very much thank our countywide elected officials. We have a delegation downstairs right now of 27 people from one of the southern provinces of China. And they're going through a description of property tax and taxation issues. I'd also like to thank the management team and all of our frontline staff members who are all dedicated to serving 523,000 of our constituents. And I'd like to mention one other person who I'd also like to thank, and that is Dick Hawks, who is strictly volunteer. I would like to thank you, Dick, very much for your gentle, experienced touch of taking the county forward. A lot of some of the more comfortable and let's all get along, that does spring from Dick Hawk's heart. So I appreciate all the work that you've done over the last 2 years and what you'll do for us in the future. So with that, let's see. Taking a look, I'd like to share a little of the thinking about the steady excellence that's been delivered by some of the people who have been reappointed. Ron Ford, T.R. Smith, Ron Ford as chairman of administration, T.R. Smith with his, sidekick, Mike Kenyon. You can't get any better than having two farmers taking care of our agriculture committee. John Hoshite, a steady hand after 18 years in chairing finance, public health so well led by Dr. Monica Silva. Public service, Deb Allen, you have changed the way that elected officials come to interact and commune with this board, where honestly I heard complaints of people saying they dreaded having to come forward, and some of the sharpness in the exchanges that's just not necessary in that. And I credit so much of that to your leadership and all the members who have served on the Public Service Commission, Public Service Committee over the last 2 years. And then Drew Fraz, thank you very much for the very steady work on transportation. We also have enormous potential in some of our new members and some of the new appointments. When I think of Barb Wonicki's background in environmental and energy issues, she's done just a great job in that area. Bill Leonard, who has spent 35 years in taking care of small business and individuals when it comes to health care and other kinds of insurances, and who recently sold his business, so is now available to take care of advising us and moving us all together. I also wanted to thank Christina Castro for her continuity on that committee. We've got a lot of work on an area where we're spending $15 to $17 million of our taxpayer money each year. I'd also like to recognize Teresa Barrero and Becky Gillum, who will be the co-chairman of the Economic Development and Jobs Development Committee. When I listen to Teresa Barrero especially talk about her work on the foreclosure task force, the best way to stop foreclosures is for everybody who wants a job to be able to enjoy a steady job paying higher wages. And so there's nothing you can do that is more important than hammering through that, and to have such a good teammate as Becky Gillum with that leadership, it's really important. Then Christina Castro, I appreciate your willingness to step forward and take a huge piece of responsibility. I understand that 60 to 65% of all of what we spend in the county is in those two crucial areas. It's tough, but we are so blessed with all the players doing their very best to cooperate in that area and to move us forward. So thank you very much, Christina. And then in the legislative area, Brian Pollock and then Susan Sterrett, I appreciate your steady work in this area. As I've mentioned in some of the other meetings, if you could have heard in the gazillion telephone calls that I got a chance to talk with many of you multiple times, the number of times that people complimented your work, Brian, where they would say, well, and he actually reads the stuff, that is a wonderful thing. So your conscientiousness, and when you think about the impact that legislation has, unfunded mandates has. Just this past week, there was a piece of legislation that went through that exponentially, literally exponentially raised the cost of jurors from about $145,000 per year to $618, if I remember that number correctly. Just that one piece, because they think it's a good idea. In the end, they won't pay a penny of it, and all of us and our constituents end up paying that. Brian, you can have a dramatic impact on that. When I think about Mr. Kozarek on county development, the big step forward in that area, not only all the work that needs to be done, just moving that function, making progress there, but the idea of the concept of waste to fuel, not waste to energy, but waste to fuel, huge area. We can lead the country as far as real environmental matters where a intensive recycling can occur there. But before you can do your work, your cooperation with a Brian Pollock is crucial in working with our delegation on legislation, by the way, that passed almost unanimously out of both chambers of the General Assembly, but then unfortunately was vetoed. So Mr. Kozarek, thank you very much also for the potential and the work that you did on something that is could be a worry on the Energy Environment Committee, which is saving people money on their energy bill. So thank you very much for the work in that area. And then also, we have several ad hoc committees that meet from time to time. But Mr. Martin, I appreciate your extensive legal background, where you were the managing partner of an exceptional reputation law firm in Wheaton. It's a great thing that 500,000 people select each one of you to make your unique contribution to what we do here at the county. So, there's one other thought. All of you selected based on merit. Honest competence is what I believe our constituents are looking for. But in Kane County, one of our strengths is that we include everybody. For those who are interested, the balance of these selections, I think, is important when we step far enough back and consider what we're doing. As far as a partisan balance on the work that we do here, if I'm not mistaken, there's 14 Republicans, 10 Democrats, so that's about a 42% balance. So it's the treatment of the minority members of the board. 42% of the board would be considered a political or a partisan minority, 42%. However, in Kane County leadership, out of the 14 chairmen, 6 are Democrats, 8 are Republicans, so that's about a 43% balance over to the minority members of the board. As far as gender, and I do apologize almost to be speaking of this, but I know that to some people this is a big deal. I have to say that I don't care so much about someone's partisan source or their gender or ethnic or racial background. Again, it comes down to honest competence. But on the other hand, when you think about the gender balance in our work here, I believe that in minority membership, we have 9 female members of this board. That's about 37.5%, so about a little bit more than a third. But a full half of the chairmanship are going to be served by ladies in leadership. And I'm sorry, in some ways, I don't even know how to count the final ethnic or racial. Really, there are some, how do you define some of these? But I believe that in minority representation on the board, I believe out of the 24, there may be 7 who consider themselves in those minority demographics. That's 25 to 29%. However, of the 4 out of the people who serve there, 57 to 67 of those are chairmen of those people, of those members are chairmen of committees. So as much as we can select on merit, and then we balance our work and go at seeing how we can deliver the services we're supposed to do and then innovate. So with that, I'd like to ask, and I should have asked at the beginning, if there's a motion to approve the appointments. So moved by Ms. Castro, second by Mr. Kozarek. Any thoughts, questions? If not, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Allen. Auger.
Yes.
Guerrero. Yes. Castro.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Ford. Yes. Braz. Yes. Young. Yes. Heyman. Yes. Polshay.
Yes.
Ishmael. Yes. Kenyon.
Yes.
Kazari.
Yes.
Leonard. Yes. Lewis.
Yes.
Martin. Yes. Molina. Yes. Pollock. Yes. Sheffro. Yes. Silva.
Yes.
Smith, Sarah, Vasquez.
Okay, so the motion passes. Thank you very much, and I look forward to working with all of you over the next year and beyond. Now, may I have a motion and a second to go into executive session to discuss release of closed session minutes? So moved by Ms. Allen, second by Mr. Heyman, by Mr. Ishmael, second by Mr. Leonard. Are there any comments or questions? If not, I'd like to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Ellen. Harder.
Yes.
Guerrero. Yes. Castro. Yes. Davis.
Yes.
Ford. Yes. Fraz. Yes. Gunn.
Yes.
Heyman. Yes. Bocek.
Yes.
Ishmael. Yes. Kenyon. Kazari.
Yes.
Leonard.
Yes.
Lewis.
Yes.
Markey.
Yes.
Molina. Pollock. Yes. Sheffro.
Yes.
Silva. Smith. Sterrett. Yes. President.
Okay, so the motion passes. Do we have any, thank you, Ms. Gaki. Do we have any speakers on non-agenda items? Mr. Fraz?
I know at Forest Preserve the other day, there was some discussion about the role of ex officio. This is a good time to talk about it with the new committees. But as far as, it's my understanding now that an ex officio position, you count towards a quorum, but you don't vote. Is that correct? Or
We should get clarification, but reading
Yeah.
Robert's rules, I came across that. And I don't know if in practice we've always followed that, but yeah, ex officio member can count toward a quorum, but attendance doesn't, the failure of an ex officio member doesn't count against a quorum to attend also. So, but it's interesting. I mean, you're there to add to a quorum, but but then I don't think technically, there's a question as to whether they should vote. We should get clarification on that.
Yeah, I'd like to get clarity.
I'll look it up, Drew.
If we have been allowing them to vote, it would affect votes. So it's something we should all clarify over the next month.
Okay.
I'll look it up for you, Drew.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any thoughts at this time? Okay, if not, okay, thank you for asking that question. You're right that the clarification on that's important. Any other comments for the good of the order? Okay, if not, may I have a motion to adjourn? So moved by Mr. Heyman, second by Mr. Leonard. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We're adjourned.